This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Dunman welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And you'll be surprised, you'll be shocked. It's like, wait a minute, there's not one person on this, there's 8. Well, there's a reason for that. Because this guy was born in 1954 on this day, January 14th. But I also want to do a retrospect on what WWE Network was trying to do with Legends House and all that. So if you could look at the picture, some of you will not recognize these members of wrestling fame, and some of you will say, wait a minute, pro wrestling isn't really a sport, it's got fixed outcomes. Injuries are real. Lots of things are real. Stephanie and Triple H being assholes are real. I mean, how can Steph McMahon and Triple H be assholes? And all that. They obviously are, because you can't fake being an asshole and all that. So anyway, regardless of that, you got 8 people here wrestling. The top left, you have Tony Atlas, former WWE Tag Champion, and basically one half of the first African-American tag team to win WWE Gold with Rocky Johnson, who sadly passed away last year. Tony Atlas had some problems with WWE, and he actually was living he was living on a park bench in Virginia in 1990. Allegedly, he almost froze to death. But then somebody saved him from it, and it was a woman, and basically Tony married that woman and basically had kids with a kid. The second person you see is Pat Patterson in the white and all that, with the robe carrying a belt. He was the first ever intercontinental champion in WWE history. Funny thing is, Pat Patterson actually is Canadian, from Montreal. He's a French boy. But it was weird how, Pat Patterson, he was billed as Pat Patterson, but yet his English wasn't really that good. But basically, Pat Patterson was basically known to WWE Attitude Era fans as being a stooge alongside Jerry Briscoe for Vince McMahon. Cunt. But anyway, yeah, Pat Patterson was great. He even won the WWE 24/7 belt at age 78 years old. Sadly, he died last year, too. Down at the bottom in the, coonskin cap or something like that, is Hillbilly Jim, who was basically a comic wrestler at that. All that part of the Hillbillies. And basically, he was involved in WrestleMania 3 fighting against King Kong Bundy, but Hillbilly Jim had midget wrestlers as his team and all that to take on King Kong Bundy. It was like a 3-on-1 handicap match or something like that. But King Kong Bundy won. And worst of all, King Kong Bundy allegedly squashed one of the wrestlers, Sky Lolo. All that. The guy in the tuxedo is Howard Finkel. He died last year. He was a legend in WWE, with announcing shows at Madison Square Garden throughout the 80s and all them. He had a hand in the first 33 WrestleManias. He always at least announced a match, like ring announced a few matches per year. So yeah, he's gone. Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart with the megaphone, of course, with the hearts and all that. He was a pretty good wrestling manager. He was more of a heel wrestler manager. Although he did manage Hulk Hogan in '93, which was weird, when Hulk had that run at the WWE title that basically he backstage politicked for it. Didn't want Yokozuna to win. And yeah, Hulk basically made a statement about Yokozuna at the '93 Royal Rumble. At Royal Rumble, say that, I hope Bret Hart beats that Jap. All that. That was kind of stupid. The guy in the far right is Mean Gene Okerlund, who did a lot of interviews and all that. I don't know when he died. I think he's still alive. I think he's dead. I don't remember if he's still alive. Mean Gene Okerlund. I think he's dead. But anyway, yeah, Mean Gene was basically the backstage interviewer for many years for WWE and WCW. Though too. I mean, like, Tony Atlas, I think, was in WCW for a little bit. wasn't he? I don't know. Pat Patterson, I know, wasn't. Hillbilly Jim wasn't in WCW. Howard Finkel was not in WCW. Jimmy Hart was in WCW. And so was Meiji. But the man in the kilt is basically the #1 guy from Legends House, and that was Roddy Piper. He was in both WWE and WCW, but Piper was basically a massive heel. Everyone just hated him, especially by smashing a gold record over Captain Lou's head during the MTV War to Settle the Score stuff from 1985, which actually popularized music stars mixing in with wrestling culture. And basically, that's how WrestleMania 1 was built on, like, celebrity status and all that. And WrestleMania 1 did it. So basically, yeah. So yeah, Piper was in WrestleMania 1 in the main event with Paul Orndorff fighting Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. T and Hogan won thanks to Cowboy Bob Orton slugging the wrong person with his cast, that being Orndorff. Piper was a vicious heel who hated Mr. T and challenged Mr. T to a boxing match at WrestleMania 2, but of course Piper got disqualified for using wrestling techniques instead of boxing techniques. But weird as it sounded, at WrestleMania 3, Piper became a good guy. He was wrestling a retirement match and he was beloved and all that. Basically, Piper started becoming a good guy in a sense. Piper would only win one WWE singles title. That would be the Intercontinental belt in 1992. Only because Bret Hart had a massive fever and couldn't wrestle the Mountie. So Piper beat the Mountie. Piper would face Hart for the Intercontinental belt at WrestleMania 8. But it would be one of the rare occasions that two baby faces would be fighting for one title. And they both had natural mutual relations with each other. So basically, you know, they had a friendship. Bret won the title, by the way, from Piper. But basically, Piper was not useful, so he went to WCW to try to fix things up. He would be okay in effect and all that, but you know, Piper in WCW was kind of incoherent and rambling. He did come back to WWE in 2003 to be Hulk Hogan's foil and all that. But yeah, but he was getting a lot of pops of being a good guy, so that's good. But unfortunately, Piper was the first member of Legends House to die. But the guy I want to talk about is with the 2x4. That's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That's the guy whose birthday is today, January 14th. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was a fan favorite with his 2x4 shouting, "Ho! USA! USA!" All that. This was before the Gulf War conflict. Basically, he did the USA stuff in the late 80s. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is actually the first ever winner of the Royal Rumble. The first ever Royal Rumble happened in 1988. And yes, it did happen in Canada, in Hamilton, at the Cops Coliseum. Surprised that the first Royal Rumble was in Canada, in Ontario, too. But anyway, Hacksaw used the top ropes to take down the one-man gang's momentum. So that's amazing. But of course, Legends House was very coy. The WWE Network was making their pay TV debut and all that, like, you know, $9.99 a month in the US, but it's like $14.99 in Canada, unfortunately. We always get the blood. End of the subject. But anyway, yeah. So, you know, Legends House, watched it every week. Always wanted to see what the wrestlers were up to. Of course, all 8 of them in one house together, and there would be a lot of, like, massive disagreements and all that. You know, like, they would be in Palm Springs trying to get life, trying to do polo, trying to eat certain foods, try to play tennis. Went fishing with Shawn Michaels. Had some stuff going on with their personal lives and all that. But unfortunately, there was always a massive fight between Hacksaw Jim and Tony Atlas because of some, not just egos, but just some miscommunications and all that stuff. So basically, yeah, they went to Vegas to be Chippendales, and basically they all had, like, Tony and Hacksaw had troubles with each other, and basically there were a lot of issues. A few of my personal highlights was the How Well Do You Know Your Roommate quiz show, that basically the roommates would face each other and all that in a competition. And, you know, Jimmy Hart and I don't know who Jimmy Hart's partner was, I think it was Hillbilly Jim, but they won the competition somehow. Like Jimmy would always use hand signals to help out, but everyone was coy about that. And Jimmy Hart tried to say that, you know, I'm a Christian athlete, I don't cheat. Yeah, right. And basically, I think it was Pat Patterson said, Tony, Jimmy Hart always has the mantra: win if you must, lose if you must, but always cheat. So anyway, that mantra was huge. Unfortunately, though, things were tough in a sense. But anyway, the highlight was Hacksaw Jim being with Piper as a roommate, and basically the last question was, "What is one thing Roddy can't live without?" And Roddy was cheating and whispered in Hacksaw's ear his wife, but Hacksaw said, "Life, life." What? You can't live without life. Piper shows him on his hand, like he wrote it on his hand, and it was white. And then Piper said after the game show, "I'm Roddy Piper, I'm a heel. I wrote wife on my hand and showed it to Hacksaw, but Hacksaw can't see without his glasses." That's what happened. It was laughing. Another one was the roast of Roddy Piper. What happened is Piper had a commitment to do an autograph thing during Legends House, so he had to leave. And then they needed to write a roast of somebody. And since Piper left, Piper was the victim. Basically, there were people with great stuff. They didn't really show Pat Patterson or Hillbilly Jim's stuff as much. Like, you know, it was just ifs and ends. Jimmy Hart had some decent jokes, but no one laughed at them. Mean Gene didn't do much roasting. They had the Iron Sheik even guest star. And Iron Sheik was kind of funny, but, you know, his accent ruined a lot of things. Hacksaw did some good things about Piper, saying, "Roddy, you look like $1 million, all green and wrinkled." Ha ha ha. Howard Finkel tripped over his delivery and all that. But he was self-deprecating, and that was funny. But Tony Atlas ended up being one of the biggest surprises, because Tony Atlas basically was raised by his mom not to say anything mean about other people and all that. You can make fun of yourself, but don't make fun of others. But Tony Atlas basically came up with some nice material. He even tells the joke about Piper. He says, you know, Piper is squeezing him in the ring in a match. And Piper says, "Damn, Atlas, I've heard about squeezing a blackhead, but this is ridiculous." And then Atlas goes, and it's like, "Ha ha ha ha. Now you know I'm going to tell on you." And people were like surprised that Tony Atlas pulled it out. Atlas says, "Me and my wife would get it on, but she would be calling his name out of bed." I don't understand it. My kids are like him, blonde, white, and all that. I just don't understand it. But then Piper decides to roast everyone else when it's his turn to get back at everybody. He even makes fun of Hillbilly Jim, because when they did the Chippendales waxing, they waxed him. And Hillbilly Jim didn't complain. And when I looked down in the garbage, I thought Chewbacca had an abortion. He called Tony Atlas Shrek. It says, "It's Donkey." Oh, yeah, the ass is right there. And that was Jimmy Hart. And Piper says, "These things will get to us in our lives. Possibly for me, 2 weeks." And he says, "Howard, how the hell did you get here, baby Jesus?" But he saved his best barbs. He didn't, I don't think he really barbed at Pat, but he saved his best barbs for Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And he basically tells Hacksaw that, "Duggan, you slut. I ain't making this shit up. I've seen the moon, but I've never held up the moon, but it was there." I mean, Duggan's butt. Duggan carries a 2x4 in the ring, and his wife says that's the most wood he's had in 10 years. And then he says, "He's such a slut that all the dancers look at him and go, ho!" You know, the trademark. It's funny. But the last episode, when they were basically saying all this stuff, like, everyone tells about what their struggles are. Tony, of course, being poor and in the ghetto and all that, and being homeless and all that. Hacksaw tells us a story about the fact that his first wife died in a helicopter crash with his kids, and he felt guilty. All that. No, it was a car crash. There was someone was a helicopter, I think. I thought. Uh, Mean Gene basically said that his wife gave him a kidney, and he was fighting kidney disease. Jimmy Hart had troubles dealing with the fact that his daughter died and all that. Or, yeah, his daughter died. I think she was in Afghanistan. I don't know. Piper said that, dealing with kids and all that. And Howard tells the story about how he was always picked on and made fun of, but the WWE gave him a chance to be a good ring announcer, and basically he outshone everyone. And of course, Pat Patterson at the end tells about his struggles about being gay and keeping it in the closet for so many years and all that. So yeah, it was an interesting show. Too bad they never tried it again. I don't know why. But anyway, it was a good show. So anyway, raise a 2x4 to Hacksaw Jim Duggan and go, ho! I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.